Hi, I'd like to take just a quick second and talk about Google Forms. Google Forms are a great way to develop surveys, do bell ringers in your class, or even give out quick quizzes. Now, to do a Google form, you're going to need to log in to your Westside Google account, and you can always check our Area 66 webpage for information how to log into your Westside Google. But once you're logged in, you're going to come over to the left-hand side here. You're going to click Create and go down to Form. When you click a form, it'll ask you for a title, so maybe I'll do Bell Ringer Period 5. You can choose different themes, so maybe I'll go with this gray theme, and then click OK. It'll take you to where you're going to build the page. Now, if you scroll up, notice that there's some settings. This first one requires Westside Community Schools login to view the form. That's going to force all the students or anybody you send this link to go in and log in with their Westside credentials. That might be nice, but for my cases, I'm going to uncheck that so that I can have anybody take this form. Now, I can do my questions. So the first one I might do is, what is your name? And in this case, I probably don't want it to be multiple choice. I'm going to change it to text. I'm going to click Done. Now I can come down and add another question, so maybe I'll do a multiple choice one, and I'll go, when was the War of 1812? And then my choices, I'll go 1812, 1800, 1945, and 1776. Then I'll click Done. Maybe I want to try a choose from a list question. And I go, who was the first president of the US? And I'll go Lincoln, Washington, Adams, and we'll go Jefferson. And I'll click Done. Now you can add as many more questions as you would like. You can even add images. You can do videos inside of these, but I'm just going to stick with these three. Scrolling down, I can see where it says show link to submit another response. If I'm giving this to kids, I probably just want them to take it one time, so I'm going to uncheck that. Now, to actually send this to students, you might click this button down here. I find that to be a little bit troublesome. Instead, what I like to do is come up here and click this button where it says View Live Form. When I click that, this is going to take me to my live form. The address here is what I can send out to students. So if you send it over email, post it on Blackboard, put it on your web page, you can just send them this link. If you want to write it on the board, I would not try to write this all out. Instead, I would use a URL shortener such as tinyurl or goo.gl, and then you can shorten that up. So once you send that to students, you want to see what they did. Now there's a button here that says View Responses. And if I click that, it's going to take me to a spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet is where all the responses are going to be put. If you ever close out of your Windows, if you look back at your drive, and I just click the tab to take me to the Google Drive, I can see here that this is my form, Bell Ringer Period 5, and here is my responses file for Bell Ringer Period 5. So I'm going to go back up here to the live form and fill it out. So my name is John Smith. The War of 1812 was in 1812, and the first president of the U.S. was Washington. I hit submit, and then it'll go ahead, and this is saving it back into that spreadsheet. And once it submits here, it'll say your response has been recorded. Now, if I come over here to my responses file, with any luck, there it is. I have a timestamp of when it was taken. I have the name of the student and when it was. So once I have all of my students take this, I can really quickly look down a list and see who's getting it and who's not getting it. I can even come up here to the Forms tab and go to Show Summary of Responses. Once I click that, it'll even generate a graph for me. So if this is a bell ringer or maybe it's an exit slip type activity, I can really quickly at a glance look and see is the class getting it or not and make any changes accordingly. In future episodes, I'm going to go over how you can automate the grading of this form and get individual feedback for students on a per question basis. Thank you. Greetings! In a previous episode, I went over how to use Google Forms to solicit feedback for students in class. I made an example bell ringer form that you could send out and had mentioned that you could also use it for an exit slip or for in-class quizzes. Well, in this segment, I'm going to walk you through how to use the form that you created previously, but make it grade itself using a great tool called Flubaroo. So to get into this, I'm going to log back into my Google Docs, and I'm going to access the form that I previously made. And so here you can see this is the bell ringer period 5 and the bell ringer 5 responses file that we discussed. Now, when I click on the bell ringer period 5, I can see that this was the form that I made. I asked for the student's name, which is important. I asked a couple questions here, and then I talked about how you could click this View Live Forms button and get a link that you could send to your students. Well, in order to create a quiz that grades itself, one of the things that we're going to need to do is to create an answer key. Now, the way that Flubaroo works is I'm going to go to my live form and I'm going to fill this out as a teacher, and this is going to become the key that I'm going to use in order to grade my students' responses. So where it says, what is your name? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in teacher key so that I know when I look at it that this is going to be the teacher key. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the quiz and make sure I have the correct answers down. And then I'm going to click submit. That's it. That's all you have to do here. So now when I look at my form, I can go ahead and I can close that out and I can open up then the responses file. When I open up the responses file, you can see here that I have some students here that have taken the quiz. I can see their responses, and then I can see also here that I added a teacher key that I filled out. Now, before I showed you how you could go to form and show the summary of responses, and this is a great view. I can look at it. I can quickly see is the class as a whole getting it or not getting it. But what I can't see is how these individual students do, so I have a hard time giving them individualized feedback. Well, to fix that, there's a script called Flubaroo that will go through and grade this quiz for me. To get that set up, I'm going to go to Insert, I'm going to come down to Script, and then I'm just going to search for Flubaroo. So once this loads up here, there'll be a search button, and I can type in Flubaroo and hit search. And then notice down here it says Flubaroo. I'm going to click install. And it's going to pop up here in a second asking for permissions. So there it goes. Authorization is required. I'm going to click continue. It's going to ask for some permissions and it's okay to click accept. And then so now it's going to install the Flubaroo script on this form. And so now it's installed. I'm going to click close, and notice that up here in the menu bar there's one extra option now. It says Flubaroo. When I click Flubaroo, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click grade assignment, and it's going to pop up with a little dialog box that's going to walk me through the grading process. So the first thing that it's going to ask me here is, okay, what do the different columns mean? And so what is your name identifies the student, and then I have my two questions here. This is where you can go and choose how many points you want that question to be worth. Do you want it to be worth 1 point all the way through 5 points? Or do you want to skip grading on that question? In this case, I'm going to have each one of my two questions be worth 1 point. I'm going to click continue. And then it says, okay, now where is the key? So I'm going to scroll down here and pick teacher key. And then I'm going to click continue. And so now at this point, Flubaroo is going through and it's actually grading my assignment. If you noticed, it popped up with a new tab on the bottom here. I'm going to click View Grades. And on that new tab, all my originals are still here. But when I click this Grades tab, I can see some descriptive statistics on the top. So out of 2 points, the average was 1.4. There were 5 submissions. And then if I look down here, I can see by name here the total points that they got, what that is in a percentage, how many times they took the quiz. And then if I look over here, I can see a 1 indicates they mean they got it correct, and a 0 indicates that they got that question incorrect. and then I can look down here and see the number of students that had that question correct. So in this case, I had 3 out of the 5 students get that correct, and over here I had all but 1 student get this question correct. And so Flubaroo just gives me a really quick and easy way to grade quizzes that I've distributed over Google Forms. If you have more questions, make sure to check out our Area 66 webpage. And on that webpage, if you scroll down, I have a direction sheet for using Flubaroo for self-grading quizzes. And so once again, that's Google Forms and self-grading quizzes using Flubaroo. Thank you.